Don't mess up the do now.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Right.
Okay, I didn't want to be the first one to say it, but really, like, what did this just do to my hair? So you guys,
Oh, no, it's
you're
okay.
still cute. You're experts, you know.
No, we
We
just
would have told you
We're
that
not-
it was hideous.
My name is TRE FOOR, and I am a Christian. I am also a wife, a mom, a realtor, and a ministry leader. And I need to walk out my faith in every aspect, every area of my life consistently. And that's really the goal, is the balance in that. And making sure that when I'm preaching on Sunday, I don't preach on Sunday. That was not what I would say, but you know what I mean? But when, what is happening and what I'm challenging people to inside the four walls of the church, or it's exactly what I'm walking out and demonstrating and living and being outside of the church as well. And it's a challenge in a business like mine in real estate because there's a lot of unscrupulous people, and you can definitely get tripped up and let that flesh starts to rise up, and you see people trying to take advantage. And so it's a constant check and balance is the goal. And I feel like, honestly, I'm at a place where I've navigated that pretty well, that I walk in a pretty balanced place, but it's, something I've got to work on every day and be aware of every day. I'm a realtor and I'm a ministry leader, and it's a pretty interesting difference in the two roles and the two things that are happening. And I've really been so blessed by the opportunities to help people either buy their homes or sell their homes that I'm also doing life with, that I'm in ministry with, that I'm in church with. It's really, really cool because I've seen time and time again just an anointing, an inexplicable favor that has fallen on these people and their transactions. And I know it's because we have the opportunity to put Christ in the center of it. And it's really an exciting thing. You kind of just laugh, shake your head sometimes at how on earth that happened, but we know exactly. It didn't happen on earth. It didn't happen through anything truly that we did. It happened by solely the favor of God. And it's a beautiful privilege that I have in business, is being able to be in business and work with people that are believers and approach everything differently, because it's not so clinical, it's not so legal. We can actually look at it and say, okay, Christ is in the middle of this, and that's why there's going to be an inexplicable favor in it. It's kind of become a joke now. So I do a lot of events at Higher Vision, spend a lot of hours there behind the scenes. We're decorating, we're doing things are coming up, and it seems like every time there's a big event, real estate explodes. And I remember one day, God, I'm so thankful for this business, but could you maybe spread it out? Maybe during the slow months when there's not so many events, then I'll be busier with work. And I remember not even getting the full sentence out of my mouth, and God was like, really? You want to tell me when to bless you? And I was so convicted in the moment. And I was like, no, I don't. I didn't mean it. But it was really a loving bit of correction, and really truly believing that God had told me, you keep taking care of my house and I'll keep taking care of your house.
Welcome to Drunk Girls Bible Study Podcast. Drunk in the Spirit, drunk on the Word, connecting the Word to the world, authentically, unapologetically. And here are our hosts, Shahara White, Angelique Ihat, and Natasha Dion.
Hey.
I am so excited.
I'm more excited than you.
No, you're
I'm more excited than
No.
both of you.
No.
So there.
Okay, maybe. You've known
Wait,
her
I
the
thought we were
longest.
supposed to be in competition with each other.
We're not in competition.
We're not. This is just
demonstrating
love.
levels of love
I know, and wait.
and excitement. Oh, dear George.
Oh.
Jesus.
Oh, bro!
Did you sabotage?
Sabotage.
Yes.
You sabotaged
No, I didn't. I
Yes,
really didn't.
you did.
That was the Holy Spirit. I didn't do it. I did not do it. I
Holy
promise
Spirit
you.
would not
The
be
hornblower is broken. Oh, she found
Thank
another
you.
one. Dear Lord.
Dear.
She found another one.
Jesus.
Drunk
Help
Girls
me,
Bible-
Jesus.
Drunk Girls Bible Study is so excited. 'Cause
Yes.
Guess what?
What?
We got somebody here.
I know, not just somebody.
We've got TRE FOOR.
Ow, ow, ow.
My head is just getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's a small room, so, you know,
Well
scale it back.
And she's pretty hot, you guys.
She came in
so
here
hot.
smoking.
Smoking.
It was cold this
Her
morning. It's hot in
snakeskin
here now.
boots and her glowing face. And,
She had to. She had to do it to us.
Okay, wait.
girl, you fine.
You
Hey,
fine.
I
You
knew
look
I was
good.
walking into the midst of queens. So I'm gonna have to step up my game today.
funny.
How was your morning this
Shahara
morning?
doesn't go anywhere ugly. So
For real.
Oh, not true.
It's so true.
Impossible.
Don't even
Come
try
on
and
now.
deny it.
Shahara, it's always a runway with you.
Yes.
And you, and you, and
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Stop it.
That's so
funny.
great. How was your morning this morning, Che?
You know, it was good. It's been a
Yeah.
busy week. So it was just a little bit of juggling going on. And then you think you run in there and I'm like, wait a second. I listened to your podcast.
Yay!
Yeah.
This is video. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to like get ready.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then that just threw me into a little bit of a tailspin.
And then you were like,
Because-
rock star status. Whoosh.
Yeah, you're
And
right.
you showed up.
Because queens. So
And you are one.
And you know.
Yes.
Right? How about
Absolutely.
you, Angelique? How was your morning?
I was late and I got locked out of a studio. They don't
She
love
won't
me.
let it go.
I won't, girl. To your dying day, I'm.
I remember that
you
time
will
you
never.
knocked me out.
I will never forget. No, I'm just kidding.
So glad it wasn't me.
It was actually really funny.
No, it was like you know how you just do things.
I totally do.
And every time
Muscle
I close
memory.
the door, I just lock it.
Yes.
And I didn't even think about it. I was like, who is banging on the door? I was like, Ava, who is that? What is their problem? And she's like, Ava was like, you locked the door. Angelique comes in, taking off her stuff. I'm like,
Is that your
no.
passive aggressive way of telling me I'm late?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It wasn't me.
Shahara,
Yeah, I
how
was just gonna say, how was your morning?
My morning's great. I'm here.
Your voice went up. Are you lying?
Busy. No.
She's
It was
totally
great.
lying.
Exactly. I've been busy. Busy day, as we all have had. So.
Yeah.
She's the woman that we love to hate early in the morning. I saw her.
Oh my goodness.
She was up at the crack of dawn baking homemade cream puffs,
Yeah.
sprinkled in sugar.
Oh my gosh.
Drizzled with chocolate.
I'm trying to get the cream puffs from under my eyes. You know, it's like, and she's up baking, looking like a diva. You know, just like glitter surrounds her, this aura of beauty and love and grace. And, you know, her movements are like so fluid.
There you go.
You know, so she's
There
just
you
like baking, and everything's like a song and a dance. I'm
but
serious.
really.
I mean, girl, but I'm serious the way you move, and I'm kind of like, you know, like trying not to trip.
No,
Stank breath
I'm
and
with you.
yeah,
I've been pretty sure she
crusties.
like peas glitter.
Yes. Do you fart cinnamon?
You guys are so embarrassing. Anyway, I've had a busy morning. I've done a lot of things. I'm sorry. I've done a lot of things, and I'm here. And we're moving on. How about you? How was your day?
We've got her all
It was
flustered.
great.
You wouldn't know it, but I'm blushing. You thought I put blush on.
That's just your glow.
It was good. I locked a friend out today.
No, you don't say.
I was like, oh no. No, it was busy and good. You know, my family is here. And
Yeah.
you get to see Evangelina.
Yes.
Ava, woo. So it was
Always a
exciting. So we have TRE FOOR today. And I
Yes.
know we all know her, but we're
Yes.
going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
So I'm going to read like a bio that I wrote.
Okay.
Because I didn't ask TRE to send me anything because I wanted to make her as uncomfortable as possible.
Just the way we like. That's what we do up in here.
It's spontaneous. It's just
You know how Jesus is. You know,
know,
he
right?
reveals
You
us
guys
stuff.
all know I'm already so out on my element.
Well, at least you're doing it gorgeous, girl.
My bio.
I'm ready.
What is my bio?
I'm ready.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
from,
Natasha.
from the writer.
TRE FOOR is a mother, a wife, a women's leader for a very large church. She's also a grandmother. Mm-hmm.
That's one foxy grandma.
Right?
Super
Woo!
fox.
Isn't she hot?
Yes.
This is the new
Okay,
grandma.
okay, keep
Yes,
going.
it is.
Wait.
I like that. The
She's
new
also
grandma.
a businesswoman, a highly respected, sought after realtor who owns her own company.
Yes.
Right? And she empowers women. She shepherds women. Her whole life is dedicated to service through leadership. And when I think about that, how is it hard to hear these things about yourself, Trey?
A little bit. Yeah, it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. Would your 10-year-old self be surprised? Would she believe that you've become the woman that you are right now?
Whew, we're going to go deep right off the start. My 10-year-old self would be shocked. She would call you a liar.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, we're going to start. Angelique, how do you know Trey?
It's so funny. Actually, my daughter has picked some of my very best friends, and she met Trey before I did. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I found your new best friend. You were gonna love Trey." And I think that first time I actually met you was at a Bible study, and I followed you out of the Bible study and told you that God told me you had a problem with pride.
Yep.
That was our introduction, and I was like, she's gonna hate me, but I have to tell her this. Yeah, so that was like my first introduction to Trey, and she still wanted to be my friend after that. It probably took her a while.
Not that night.
Exactly.
What were you thinking, Trey, in that moment?
Goodness.
Well,
Yeah, I know. Thanks,
be
Lord.
honest.
Thanks, God.
you have to understand
Obedient child, you.
there was such a build-up to this Angelique, right? Because Kylie, she would come to my house, and this is back in the day when the church very first started. We had Bible studies in our home, and we needed a babysitter for the kids. So she would babysit the babies upstairs in my house. Well, we had Bible study downstairs in my living room, and she just kept saying, "You and my mom are going to be friends. You and my mom are going to be friends." Didn't know anything about her
Prophetic
mom.
word.
But she knew. That girl knew.
She knew.
Thank you, Kylie. And so I think that God must have also prepared my heart a little bit with that. Like, she, because she did. She walked out. We had just gotten the hub. I had shared something that night reluctantly, and we walked out, and she goes, "I think you have a pride problem." And I was just like,
Excuse me.
"Sorry, who are you?"
Back up a minute, sister.
Whoa.
Right.
Wow. But it resonated pretty quickly, and it was a situation in my life at that moment that was spiraling beyond my control, and I didn't like it because I like to be in control. I like
Don't
to
we
be
all?
able to fix it.
Yeah.
And this one was unfixable.
Yeah.
And she was right, as usual.
I did try to say it gently but firmly.
No, it was pretty blunt.
I know. I was.
So you thought.
When people ask me stuff like
It's
to mentor
honest.
them or whatever,
Yeah.
I said you have to understand. I'm gonna be
Right.
straight with you.
That's
it.
So if you don't want the
Yep.
truth, you're
Yep.
gonna want somebody else.
Yeah.
I don't really.
She's not cream cheese.
I don't sugarcoat it. I'm
Yeah.
not mean. I'm totally not judgmental. But I just call it like it is because that's how I like it.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is it? What is
That's
it?
why
Straight
you
up,
and
no
I
chaser.
Straight no chaser.
Straight no
baby.
chaser. I just want the
That's why we
truth.
get along so
Right.
well.
But you know what? I do the same thing, and I think that's why I was able to get over the sting pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, what do I need to do about this?
Right.
So,
Right.
and here we are.
Here we
Yeah.
are.
How did you know then,
Wow.
Angelique? What was the moment where you knew that God had this calling in her life? You know,
my
because you're a
gosh.
spiritual person. You know, when I think about being a spiritual powerhouse, I think of you. So you would know. That's why I'm asking you. Not everybody has
You are
those moments.
so
with someone.
sweet. She was my right hand as we were building the women's ministry. And I knew from early on, the Lord told me, train her up. You need to bring her in. And I had this sense in my heart. He never told me verbatim that I would be handing the ministry over to her or passing it down to her. Obviously, it's the pastor's. It's his to hand down, but I knew that we were building this, and that I just knew I was going to be handing it over to her. And it was like immediately. Actually, it was almost immediately. We were sitting there, and I think we were planning for something. Probably one of the Bible studies. We were probably. I think it might have been the Joyce Meyer study we did when we were going through that. Remember breaking it down and. I just remember all of her giftings and all of her strength and all of her wisdom and her humility and she was so teachable and so eager and willing to serve and honest, and she was real, and she'd been through some stuff, and she had compassion for people, but I could just see all the giftings of God, and I knew that he was gonna do something so great with her life, and she could not see it. And I remember the first time I made her speak, I swear I thought she was gonna pee her pants. You should probably tell it from your side of the
I thought I
story.
was going to throw up.
She was shaking like, if you can't make me do this. And I'm like kicking her in the butt. Get out there and do it, Trey.
Go, woman.
Go obey the Lord. I told you.
good.
So what was that from your side?
Oh my goodness. It was the joy of her heart was the trepidation of mine.
It was only joy because I knew God was going to come
She
through.
was so excited, and I was like, this is fun for you? I'm about to pass out. I was pacing in the back. Women were coming up, and they were like praying for me. My cold sweat.
She was a bit clammy.
I was terrified. I was terrified. And I did not see my qualification. I did not see what she saw. I didn't see that the things that I had been through, I didn't realize it yet, that everything that I had been through was all preparation to walk somebody else through it.
Yep.
To be compassionate in their hurt.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm just going to say this. I was going to ask Shahara next, but I'm going to say this because right now, because I was going to answer the same question. You know how you go around and you're like, okay, so... But that was a moment that you gave me, Trey, at the women's conference. One of the things I had never felt, because I'm who I am, anyway. I never felt like this is my community. These women are my girls. Because I live a different kind of life that's outside of the church primarily, but I know I'm called there. And I remember you asked me to read for the women's conference. And then God was like, you're going to read this same piece. It was a social justice piece. I was like, these are not the people. This is not the thing. I was like, God, give it, somebody else needs to step up and do something that's more encouraging and happy and all this.
More churchy.
But more churchy. I said, but it ain't social justice to open a women's conference. And that was my hesitation. I was like, God, these aren't my people. And he's like, they are your people.
Yes.
I gave you your gifts. I gave you your calling. So you have to go up there. And I remember reading that piece and then afterwards, and people were kind of like, wow, okay. And I'm like,
Me too.
and I was like, they were like, we weren't expecting that. Okay. But it was what I was supposed to, but for me, it was like the first time that I realized that maybe this applies to them. Not seeing, so this is before our current, everything that's going on in the world, the, race issue, all these things that are really coming to a head right now in our nation. And it was before then that you asked me to do this thing. And I was like, Trey, are you sure you want me to read whatever is in your heart? No, Trey, you're not sure that. But it was a moment for me when I was like, okay, so God is with me whether I'm in a church building or in Armenia or in North Carolina or in New York or wherever, that it applies wherever. So that was that moment. But I knew that you were a powerful woman of God when I saw you. This is before I knew who you were, and I was still like those people. But I saw you handle a situation that I wasn't part of, but I knew that it was happening. And I was just like, let them just figure it out. Not my circus.
Back away.
But I remember the way that she handled it. And I knew that she was for women. And I said, oh my God, I can be a feminist before women as a feminist in this space, in a church space, which feminist is a bad word for, in church spaces.
Most evangelical circles.
Yeah. But, and by that I mean for women, like Jesus was for women.
Yes.
And you were for women. I was like, okay, I like her.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
So that's how I first met Trey. How about you, Shahara?
Well, all of our stories are going to run parallel to each other. Is what I'm saying. So bring you two together, these two stories. The first time I met you was at the well. And I didn't even meet you that day. I met your story. And when she asked you earlier, what would your 10-year-old self believe? Like, it brought tears to my eyes because you told your story that day. And, God is so beautifully orchestrating everything we do. I was in there, and that was like the first time that I heard ever. I've been raised in church when I was younger and then wasn't having a church home for many years. So that was the first time I'd ever heard a woman tell her story authentically, unapologetically, with poise, but at the end of the story, there was a truth. There was a rainbow at the end of your story, which was started from the bottom. Now we're here.
Started from the bottom. Now we're here. Yes,
exactly. Through this time of your life, and it didn't define you. That's not who you are. It was actually your preparation for where you were at the time. And it encouraged me, it inspired me, and it really, and that's when the Lord was like, see, your story encouraged and inspired me to know that, so many times people try to keep you in the box of something you've done or where you've been or something like that. And that you just broke that completely off of me, completely freed me. And I was just in tears. I was just in tears at the truth of your story, but also at the freedom that you walked in, that you stood in. And I could see that you weren't, a lot of times, and this is to not anyone's fault, but there's women that go on platforms and they speak and they tell stuff, but they have like, I don't know, there's a certain kind of spirit that comes along with it. And you just really touched me. You were just real. You were right here. Right here, you know what I mean?
Thank you.
And that was the first time that and I realized that I could tell my story, and I don't have to be bound to what other people who haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
They say things
without shame or fear.
Yeah, they'll say things to shame you, or remember how you used to. Oh, she's not, because she used to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that.
Well, thank you for that. I have to say, in all the years of ministry, the most consistent, heartfelt feedback I have received from women is, thank you for being transparent.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for telling the truth.
Yes.
Thank you for not hiding, the things that have happened to you. They need to feel like they can connect.
Right.
They need that so much.
So
I remember one night a woman called me after a Tuesday night service, and she was just crying.
Yeah.
And she said, I've been dealing, this whole thing she's been dealing with. And she said, I had no idea you would be the one that would understand. Oh. And I cried. And I just thought, God, I don't ever want to be unapproachable. I don't want anyone in this church or anyone in my world to think that I have a perfect life and that I don't know the sting and the pain of what they're walking through. I never want anyone to think that. What good is hiding it?
Exactly.
It just empowers the things that have been perpetrated against us.
True.
Right.
That's true.
If we try and hide it and don't help other people through it.
Yeah.
So.
But the fact that you walk through your life with such grace and dignity and peace, and to me, I think it's a testimony of the grace of God in your life. You know what I mean? They think that you can't, because look how far God has brought you. You don't wear your wounds all over your face.
It's true.
You know what I mean? You're not like a cloud of everything that you've been through and everything that you're going through.
So
there are all these things that are going on in your life, but they don't know it because you are walking in the center of peace with the Lord. And that's beautiful. And the more you tell your story, they're like, whoa, how can you have this countenance while you're in the middle of all of this?
Right.
And that's the coolest thing. You get to go, oh, let me introduce you to my homeboy Jesus. It's like, you need to get to know the Holy Spirit who leads and guides me and drags my booty out of bed and puts a smile on my face. Well,
let's talk about that a little bit, Trey. So when you say that your 10-year-old self would be shocked by who you've become, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah. No. I think my first wound was dealt pretty early on, right around 5 years old or so, when my dad just stopped coming. My parents had split up, and but he used to come and get me and spend time with me, and I was packed and ready for him to come one day, and he just didn't come.
Yeah.
And I sat there all day as my grandpa, because it broke his heart. I was at my grandparents' house, and he said for 8 hours I stayed in the chair. I wouldn't even go to the table to eat. I just kept saying, my dad's coming. And he said he literally had to pick me up kicking and screaming finally at the end of the day. He said, honey, he's not coming. And he never came again. By the age of 10, I probably had every hateful, hideous thing that you could say to a child spoken over me. And as a child, how do you not believe that? It seems like such a silly thing, but for some reason that was just, I just wore that. And I as a child, you
it's like
realize,
pathways of your identity were being written by somebody else's hand.
So, by pretty significant things. And then, and the thing that it took me years and years to talk about, because I truly, and this is real for people that say that they've been violated, that they forget. It's not a forgetting. You can bury it so deeply. Your mind will allow you to bury it so deeply out of self-protection.
Yes.
You can't process.
Total defense mechanism, survival mode, babe.
So I can recognize now what God was rising up in me was a protector.
Yes.
I'm fiercely protective of
Yes,
people.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
But if the enemy had had his way, I would have ended up a terrified, frightened little girl and then woman who never trusted a man,
Right.
who never walked in freedom. But by the grace of God, much later in life, I didn't remember again until I was about 16. And then it was like a violent memory
Yes.
came out.
Wow.
And I didn't talk about it. Even after remembering it, I didn't talk about it for years. And that's a whole nother story. I
Yeah.
can tell you how, when it did come out. But because I walked in the shame of it, for a long, long time. And I had to relive it out.
Yes.
And I had to forgive myself
Yeah.
for letting the fear stop me from telling
Yes.
when it happened. Because otherwise it's paralyzing me
Yeah.
to think how many more little girls were abused.
Yes.
But I know this is not the trail that we were headed
No, it's
down.
exactly.
But
It's whatever the Lord
I'm
wants to
gonna
do.
say you have to tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to tell.
so
If
important.
someone has hurt you, if someone has harmed you, if someone has made you feel the slightest bit uncomfortable, you have to tell
Yes.
someone that you
Yes.
trust. You have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Thank you for sharing that.
So I'm gonna kind of move us to, because I didn't know how that question was gonna go. So what is it? This is gonna be a happier one.
And you can take all that out. You
No.
feel great.
We won't.
I didn't think we were going
because
there
I-
either, but
No, because we have to walk out these things.
Yeah.
Because that's how by sharing our stories, I read something, it says by sharing your words are creating a lifeline for someone else, right? Your story is creating a lifeline for someone else. And we need to hear that. That's, as a writer, that's what we do. We tell our stories. We tell the story of the world. We tell our own stories. Like half my bookshelf are memoirs of people who've gone through some difficult things. Some of them have found answers. Some of them haven't. So I think it's important that we share our
Absolutely.
stories.
Absolutely.
I was going to like this quote because it kind of ties into the testimony that you just shared and about how God has taken you through all those things and now you use them to help others, these experiences. And there's a quote from Henri Nouwen, and it says, the main question is not how can we hide our wounds, but how can we put our woundedness in service to others?
Yes.
And I love that quote because, I know that I've seen that in your life. I know I've seen that in my life. I've seen that in your life. I've seen that. It's like, that's just what God does. The things that we think will disqualify us, God says, no. What the enemy meant to harm, I have used to shape you and to mold you into an instrument that can be useful in service to others for my name, for my glory.
This has been a Drunk Girls Bible Study Podcast. Invite a friend to join us today. Let's have fun and come back again. We're open to everyone.